another video. Today I want to share with you my wrap-up of January. I already did a mid-month wrap-up in January, actually, where I talked about the first 5 books that I read, so I'm not going to go into those, but I'm going to mention the books that I was reading that right now, and then you can go and check that video out if you want to know more in-depth thoughts about them. First up, I read Stitches and Witches by Nancy Roarin. This is the second book in the Vampire Knitting Club, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Shepherd's Crown by Terry Pratchett. This is the last and final book in the Discworld series, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Ophi's Ghost by Justina Ireland, which is the first book in a new series. I've forgotten the title of the series, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And then I read Root Magic by Eden Royce, which is, I think this might just be a standalone actually. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it and would definitely recommend it. Then I read Shades of Wicked by Janine Frost. This is the first book in the Night Rebel series, and this is a spin-off series to the Night Hunters universe series. And I gave this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, if you want to know more about those books, I definitely suggest you check out this video. And yeah, now I'm going to get into the other books that I read in the month of January, because I actually ended up reading a total of 11 books. The next book that I finished in January was Dance with the Devil by Sherrilyn Kenyon. This is the 4th book in the Night Hunter universe. This is a book that follows Ceric. Ceric is a Night Hunter. He is sort of in isolation as people are trying to figure out what's going to happen to him, because he has done something that people deem that is not good and they want to execute him. But then Ash, who is the leader of the Dark Hunter universe, Dark Hunters, has made sure that he gets a judge kind of thing, so someone to deem him his innocence, or figure out how, if he could be trusted and if he has to be executed before he is executed. So he is sort of isolated in Alaska, and then we follow Astrid, who is this nympho, and she is to become the judge, and she is like a daughter of the 3 fates, so obviously she gives back her thoughts about him to the 3 fates, and they have to determine his fate, kind of thing. And so yeah, it was interesting. I have actually previously thought that there was a lot more to Ceric than we first thought about. I thought a lot of people was quick to judge him without actually knowing anything about him, and we were correct about that. So I definitely enjoyed this for that part of it, and Astrid was an interesting character. There was a lot of things that happened that could have threads into the oncoming books, but it wasn't like a favorite book or anything, but it was better than the previous one, so I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read Emerald Blaze by Ilona Andrews. This is the this is the 5th book in the Hidden Legacy series, but it's the 2nd book that follows the new main character, and we're following her as she's trying to run this private investigations office that previously was run by Nevada, who was the main character in the first series. And then that something has happened in by the end of the last book that I can't really say much about, but it has consequences into this one, and we definitely see more of a development of the romantic elements between her and her love interest, and it was definitely interesting to see that, and I enjoyed my time when I was reading it. I think Ilona Andrews is a really good author team, and I always seem to enjoy the books that I'm reading. So I gave it 4.5 stars. I definitely enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to reading on in the series. And I am definitely, it sort of ended on a kind of cliffhanger again, so I definitely want to read the next one. The next one I finished was Claimed by the Highland Warrior. This is the first book in a Harlequin historical romance series called, I've forgotten the title of the series, but it's first in that, and it's by Michelle Willingham. It follows this girl who has previously been married to this man who is presumed dead, and then she has remarried later on, but her husband from that marriage has passed away. I forgot if they mentioned how, but she's a widower and kind of thing. But then suddenly one day her first husband actually reappears, and it turns out that he wasn't dead, but he was taken into captivity and has been sort of a slave for this duke kind of thing. And so they are definitely having some troubles with that, and so it's a lot about her trying to come to terms with the fact that she has been married to this other man while he was in captivity, as well as also figuring out how to actually make the marriage work and getting to know each other again. And he is also trying to come to terms with the fact that she's been married again while he was gone in captivity, but also at the same time he's obviously dealing with some trauma from what he experienced in captivity, as well as he is focused on trying to get his brother out because his brother is still in captivity and he has to figure out a way to save him. So that is the basic plot of this, and then we follow them as they develop their relationship, and we follow them trying to figure out how to get the younger brother out of his captivity as well. Overall, I thought that the writing style was pretty interesting, and I enjoyed my time getting to know the characters, and I understood the sort of things they were dealing with after all of these things that had happened. But I personally didn't love the romance, and I think it was some of it came down to the fact there was a bit of an alpha male situation going on between him and the hero and the heroine, and I didn't really like that aspect of it, and that's why it never really truly felt like a romantic relationship that I was rooting for. I know it's set in a different time, but I still think that you can still have written it differently if you wanted to. So I ended up giving this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars as well. The next thing that I finished was Shelter in Place by Nora Roberts. I'm really happy I went back and read some more Nora Roberts. I've had this sitting on my Audible account for so long, and I finally picked it up, and I'm so happy I did. This is not her usual romantic suspense kind of book, because there's not a whole lot of romance in the, definitely not in the beginning part of it, because the two romantic couple people, they actually don't meet until like the halfway point of the book. But this book follows two perspectives, and both of the perspectives has been part of this bad mass shooting incident that happened many years ago in, I feel like it's Maine. We follow this girl who was at the cinema with her friends when she is going out to like visit the toilet, and when she's going back she hears like gun shooting. And she thought first that it was just going to be part of the movie, but when she saw people running out screaming from that, she hid away and called 911. And then we follow the male's perspective. He was at work. No, he was visiting a sort of ice cream joint in this mall kind of thing, trying to hit up this girl. And when all of this happens, and he is trying to save this young boy, and also is calling for help, so he's like second responder kind of thing. But they don't meet at this point, obviously, but he is very much getting into the investigations part of it. He wants to know every detail about the case and what's going on, where she is trying to avoid everything confrontation and feeling anything about it, and she dives into what she knows how to do, and that is art, and she's just trying to forget everything that happened and just enjoying sculpturing and whatever art she's doing. And yeah, and then we had the villain, who is so many years later trying to remove people from the picture that were caused this thing not really succeeding in the first place, because the people who did it ended up being shot. And yeah, it's difficult to explain, but I really enjoyed it. It was definitely intense, and it was difficult to read in some places with the things that had happened, but I really enjoyed the character development. I think Nora Roberts is excellent at writing characters, and she did that really well with this one as well. And as when the romance finally started going, I definitely really rooted for that as well, and I really liked the characters individually. And I like the sort of the way that they both dealt with it seemed really realistic, because no one deals with a traumatic incident the same, so it was definitely interesting following that. But there were some things about especially the villain's perspective that felt a little off. a little bit stereotypical in terms of villains, and that's why I didn't give it a super high rating, but I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars because I definitely enjoyed it, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading more Nora Roberts in the coming months, because I realized how much I've missed reading her books. Then second to last thing that I read in January was The Flapper's Fake Fiance by Lauri Robinson. I also read this one for my Harlequin project, and this was definitely a success. I read this, and it's set in the 20s, and it's following this girl who is having some difficult times with her father. So anyway, what happens is that yeah. What was I talking about again? Flapper's Fake Fiance. Yeah, Fiance. We're following this girl who has this dad who is very strict. He doesn't want them to go out for anything except church, and he wants to find them a suitable husband that isn't going to try and steal his money, kind of thing. So he has to find someone who has money himself, so he doesn't have to give him anything, kind of thing. But we follow this girl. She is very adamant that she's not gonna marry anyone that her father picks out, because she doesn't want him to choose her life, and she doesn't want to end up being stuck in a world he doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to be stuck as like a kitchen maid kind of person and just doing housework at home. Her biggest dream is becoming a reporter. And so her and her sisters have found a way to secretly get out of the house and join this secret club in town. And definitely goes there more or less every day. And at the beginning of this book, we found out our main characters figured out that there's someone on the loose, an escaped convict, who is responsible for a train robbery that went wrong, and stuff like that. So one of the things that our main character, she wants to become a reporter, so she's very interested in this case and wants to figure out how to figure out more so she can try and write a story about it. And so we follow this man who is, the man's perspective is the owner of this newspaper agency, and his newspaper is known for being truthful and always not writing any untruths or unfactual things. He is part of this newspaper agency, but he also has a foot, or wants to know more about the escaped convict, because he's very interested in that, because his wife and daughter passed away on the train because they were on the train, and they sort of made a bomb explosion go off, and his daughter and his wife passed away. So he sort of has a vengeful view on this, and he wants to make sure that he's captured again and he admits his justice, kind of thing. And when she comes up and finds out that he knows stuff, she doesn't know who he is, but she goes up and asks him things and figures out that he's actually Lance, who is this news reporter owner. But they start talking, and they immediately sort of have an attraction going on, and they become friends, and things happen from there. And I just super enjoyed this one. It was both a little bit of a mystery element to it, which I really enjoyed, and then the romantic element was super fun, and then the humor to the tone of this was fun as well. And I enjoyed the fact that it was a setting that I'm not used to reading from, so I definitely want to try and find more like this in the future. So I definitely enjoyed it, and I would love to read on in the series, and I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. One of my favorite Harlequin books that I've read so far in this whole project. The last and final thing that I read was The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is the second book, or the second part of the Lord of the Rings story. And this one we are following along with Bilbo Baggins and Sam as they're trying to move closer to Mordor. And then we're also following what happens to Pippin and Merry after they become split from the gang. And we're following, obviously, the main gang with Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, as they're trying to move on with their journey and figuring out what happens around. And there's a lot of political things happening in this one, which is very interesting. And there's actually a couple of things that I've forgotten happened in this, but when it started happening, I was so like, yay, I remember this, and it was so much fun. So I had a lot of fun reading this and enjoyed my time with it. I've forgotten how this one ended up, and I'm looking forward to seeing reading the last and final book in this series and finishing off the trilogy. But it still, I think, lies pretty close to the movie, so that's really interesting, I think, and look forward to actually watching the movies now. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It's not as high up as the other one, but I definitely enjoyed it, so 4 out of 5 stars. So overall, I think I had a really good reading month. I didn't have a lot of duds in here, and I have especially had a lot of good books in here. So I'm very happy about my start of the reading in January, and I hope that it will continue into February and that I'll definitely get my reading groove back on. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of the books that I've been talking about today, and what were your thoughts on them. What were your favorite books that you read in January? Let me know about that as well. And if you have anything you want to tell me, please leave a comment down below. And yeah, anyway, this has been such a strange day, and I think so this morning, it's Monday, I want to say that this morning I woke up to a text from my mother saying that she has just tested positive for COVID, and she said, I'm so sorry, but I've tested positive. And we were together Friday. I visited my parents Friday, and yesterday on Sunday I visited my brother in Aarhus with my parents and my sister, and so we were together all day yesterday. And my mom is not feeling super well. She's definitely has like flu tendencies. She has bad headaches and fever and achy limbs and stuff. So she's not feeling very well, but she says that she can sort of keep the most of the symptoms down with some painkillers, so it's definitely okay, but she's not doing super well, and we expect that it was a quick test that she took this morning. So she's gone and taken a PCR test, but obviously we expect that it will come back positive. But I've spent a lot of time with her this weekend, so I expect that I'll probably get it now, because if I don't get it, then I'm immune to it or something, because there's no way that I could avoid it with being in a car with her for like 2 hours and being with her all day yesterday. So we'll just see when that happens. And it's so strange when you know this and you start, okay, am I feeling weird? Am I feeling like the symptoms? But I want to say that Saturday I tested myself with a PCR test, and that turned out to be negative, because I had a doctor's appointment today. And I was like, do I go to the doctor or do I not go to the doctor? Because if I have it, I could actually end up infecting people. But I was wearing a face mask all the time when I was there, so I decided to go. And I took precautions in everything. I didn't touch anything without having sort of desanitized my hands or anything beforehand. So I think I'll be okay with that. And there's no telling if I have anything right now. But my brother also said that he was feeling strange today, but it can't be from my mom, because we were not together until yesterday and it's not that quick to respond. But I have taken a work from home day tomorrow, so I expect that, and I have a PCR test again tomorrow, and we'll see how that turns out, and then we'll just see how things goes. But it's definitely a strange feeling. So I guess it's my turn now, maybe. We'll see. Anyway, this is everything I had for you today. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye.